Hello friends, I'm Alex from Von Ganta House German Shepherds, and I'm following up a video I made earlier regarding line breeding in dogs. A link will appear in the description in case you wanted to see that video again. In that video I touched on a very important topic for dog breeders, which is pre-potency in dogs. What does that mean? If you want to create a consistent litter, you need a way to assure that the puppies look very similar to each other from that litter. They're not identical clones, obviously, and they have different working ability from pet quality dogs to working quality dogs, all within the same litter. But on average, you want them to be all good working dogs because the German Shepherd is a working breed and you want to breed a dog which is meant for that purpose. You also want similar conformation and similar looks and structure, and you want a predictability to your litter. So I felt that the best way to accomplish this video was to show you some of the dogs in my pedigree that I use in my lines and show you dogs where there is no prepotency and therefore there's no consistency, and then show you other dogs, German Shepherd dogs, that there is prepotency and there is consistency. Now, as I said in my first video, sometimes prepotency happens in nature automatically, but usually it doesn't. Usually the male and female have to be somehow related to each other to some degree. Now, how closely related they are to each other is up to you, the breeder, because you're picking dogs whose characteristics you like. You're not just breeding pedigrees, which is a theoretical outcome. You're breeding actual dogs which have some working qualities. And so it's a ratio of risk versus reward. The coefficient of inbreeding, or the coefficient of relationship, which I explained in my earlier video, tells you the degree of consanguinity between male and female. The more closely they're related, the more homozygous genes you have, and the more the allele pairs will line up because those genes are common between male and female. The less closely you're related, the less that will happen. And if you are breeding dogs with a very low coefficient of inbreeding, by that I mean below 5%, then of course you're taking very little risk for genetic diseases, but you will not have any kind of consistency to your litters. And to develop a line of dogs, which it takes at least 3 generations or more, you need a way to create consistency to your litters, and the only way to accomplish that is to have a relationship between male and female. Now, I normally like what's called a 3-4 line breeding, 3 generations back on the male, 4 generations back on the female. But I have a litter coming up which will be a 2-3 line breeding, and I'll explain that in a minute. So let's begin by some examples. I'm going to switch the monitor to this page here. I hope you can see it. And this is my website, vongantahouse.com. A link will appear in the description. On this website, you're going to find it organized into videos where you can see some of the famous relatives working. All my dogs are imported from Germany or from the Netherlands. And you can see some of the working ability of these dogs through videos of these dogs on this page. Under videos, I also have another videos called Videos Puppies, where I talk about early neurological stimulation as a way to bring forth the best puppies. And we follow this program in our kennel, and we do everything possible to create the best possible conditions for our dogs in order to develop them into strong, healthy examples. So I encourage you to watch these videos on this page, videos puppies, and you can see some information on that. Now, let's first look at the dog that is the starting dog in my program. He's a great-grandfather at this point. His name is Yukon Van Perot. I'm going to click on his page, And I hope you can see the screen. And this is the dog's page. I also looked him up in the Working Dog database. Now there's two databases that you can use: the Working Dog database and the pedigreedatabase.com. The website is en.working-dog.com. I believe this is in Europe, whereas Working Pedigree database, it appears to be in the US, as far as I can tell. All right. So before we talk about pre-potency and all that jazz, a dog doesn't have to be pre-potent to be a great stud dog and a great producer. He has to be just a great dog. And impart his qualities to his offspring, both structurally and behaviorally. Of course, structurally and visually is what you can see. Behaviorally is what you want it to do as well. So if you look at this dog, Yukon Vampiro, he's passed away. He was born in 2004. His owner is Peter Rode. We're not affiliated with him in any way. See Peter Rode right here in Germany. And he was registered with the SZ. That's a German registration number. If it was DN, it would be the American AKC. If it's the RFK, it's Russian Federation. If it's LOSH, LOSH, it's in the Netherlands. And so each country has its own number. Pay attention to this number. KKL1 HDZW86, achieved in 2013. What does all this mean? After a dog has a Schutzen, so in Germany, a dog has to have a license to breed. Unlike in the US, where you can make any male and female to breed, in Germany, a male must have a Schutzen title and a female must have a Schutzen title. And then there's something called the AD, which is basically a dog running 10 kilometers next to a man on a bicycle. Why does that matter? Well, if the dog can't run, if it has hip dysplasia, right? So a dog which is sound can run. A dog with bad hips can't run that long, and it'll break down in making it run for such a long distance. So it's a test of physical fitness, which is also a demonstration of good hips. Indirectly, but that counts, right? And so after the dog passes the AD and the Schutzen title, he then goes in front of a Coremeister or a breed warden, and he gets a core rating. So a dog called KKL2 is core class 2, which is recommended for breeding. KKL1, the highest, is highly recommended for breeding. So in other words, this dog is rated KKL1. HDCW86, this is a measure of the dog's hips and the statistical chance of getting bad hips tied to his, not just him, but also relatives in his family tree. In other words, if you get a dog which is exceptional, but all his sisters and brothers have hip dysplasia, then he's the exception, not the rule. But if all the brothers and sisters from that family line have excellent hips, then your odds are very good that from that line you're going to get good results. And the show score is SG, sehr good or very good in English. For those who speak German, forgive my pronunciation. I'm not a native speaker. Now, if you look at his pedigree, he's the son of Karl von Fengelhoff, which was born in 1999. It's HD, hip dysplasia normal. Frei, in other words, free of hip dysplasia. DNA, I cannot pronounce this word. In other words, and this dog participated in the BSP as well. The BSP is the Bundesprogen Profrung, or the German National Schutzen Championship. Asher Vampiro is his mom, also HD normal. So pay attention to everything what the pedigree is trying to tell you. There's a lot of information in the pedigree you can learn by merely knowing how to read it. So for example, if we click on Karn, Yukon's father, you will see it. It says Schutzen 3 SG BSP IPO3. See that? The dog competed in the BSP. Not every dog gets to make it to the German nationals. So this is not a club level trial. This is a national level trial. And the Germans, because it's their native breed, the German Shepherd comes from Germany after all. they take great pride in their dogs. And of course, in Europe, dog sports are a big part of everyday life. They're not an exception like in the U.S. Everybody trains Schutzhund pretty much. So the dog to achieve such a high title is very commendable. So his father before him was highly titled as well. So when you breed best to best, in other words, highly titled dogs to highly titled dogs, you're going to get good results, whether there is line breeding or not, because you're breeding dogs of similar characteristics to each other, despite them not being related. But what does this dog's ability have to do with being able to reproduce himself? Well, first let's look at this dog in action. Here's a video of this dog from 11 years ago. It was posted. And we can see his outstanding work in the protection phase, doing what's called a bark and hold. The machine is a little slow today. It's taking a nap. We'll come back to this screen. It seems to be slow to load. So if you look at my website, I put all our famous ancestors under our foundation dogs, and therefore Yukon is definitely one of our foundation dogs. If you look at one of his sons, who's a grandfather at this point, Yukon is a great-grandfather at this point. You will see a dog named Karel van Brenderwoerd. Now, Karel is from Holland, from the Netherlands, and they have a sport called the KNPV, the Royal Dutch Police Dog Sport. Not to say all the dogs are police dogs, but a lot of dogs do come out of the KNPV program to become police dogs. Notice this dog's title is KNPV PH1 Polithund 1, KNPV PH2 Polithund 2, and KNPV Object Be Walking, in other words, object guarding. And anatomically, he also is core class 1. So for a German Shepherd to compete in this sport against the Malinois and the ex-Malinois, it has to be a very special dog to compete at the very highest levels in Holland against very high drive Malinois and Dutch Shepherd Malinois crosses. So if you look at his pedigree, his father is also Yukon van Perot. His mother is Auchi van Schliefschlasche, and that's, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And you can see videos of this dog on our page and so forth. Now, his half-brother, Born van Wolfsfried, also born in Germany as Z, hip and elbows shown, microchip number, AKC registration number, and his DNA is on file. Also looks like his father, all black, and look at the structure of this dog. So our female dog Bailey is the daughter of Karel van Brenderwoerd and the granddaughter of Yukon van Perot. She will be bred to a stud dog named Born. I'm the one which is now on the screen. And that'll produce what's called a 2-3 line breeding on Yukon. So if you look at her pedigree, here is Bailey. Her mother is Bubbles, Sable. So she color-wise came out like her mom, but anatomical structure-wise and facial features, she came out like her father. So if you look past her coloring, which is Sable like her mother, if you look at her structure, she's like her dad. Now notice she's 3 generations away from Yukon. 1, 2, 3. You see that? She's the granddaughter of Yukon. And you can see more information about her famous father on this page. This is Rick with Karel, with a friend. And this is him winning first place at the podium in Holland. Now, under stud dogs, you will see Born van Wolfsfried. Father is also Yukon van Perot, but the mom is different. The mom is Frenzy van Roerdam. So that makes Born and Karel half brothers. In other words, Same dad, different moms. Now, Frenzy is a very well-known dog herself, and if you look at this page, you will see Frenzy competing in the 2008 Bundesprogen Profrang, meaning that a female dog was campaigned at the very highest levels like the males. So Born is the product of Frenzy and Yukon. So terrific, terrific parents, and we're going to do what's called a 2-3 line breeding on this dog. Now, getting back to our main subject, pre-potency. Well, how can we tell? Was this dog pre-potent or not? In breeding dogs, there's a concept called phenotype and genotype. When you're breeding dogs by genotype, you're breeding dogs which look alike, physically look alike. When you're breeding dogs by genotype, they have some common relationship between them. In the ideal world, you would breed dogs which have similar genotype and phenotype to create consistency in your litter. You will see this example right here. So if you look at this dog, you will see progeny list right here, 209 offspring. That's what's ever entered into this database. There could be more. It's just people didn't enter the information. So this is a very significant number because this dog sired a lot of puppies. That means he wouldn't have been used so heavily at stud if he was not an exceptional dog himself that he was worth breeding to. So in other words, notice his progeny list is more than 200 puppies with different females. If you look at the number of breedings he had we're going to click on progeny list. Some commercial here. We're going to notice that there are 6 pages worth of progeny. This website has a lot of commercials, so ignore all this commercials, but focus on this right here. Notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 progeny, and then so forth. Next. So there's more than 7 pages worth of kids from this dog, Yukon. Now notice with this mom, SG Eike van Kleinen Jigenauer, he produced 1 puppy. At least that's 1 puppy that was entered into this database. Probably more, but they were not entered. With mother Eike van Castro Regina, now notice how the puppies are all black and they look like their dad, Yukon. This is a puppy born in 2007. We're now in 2023, so this puppy's probably no longer alive. But the bottom line is that they look like their father. Odds are it was a black female was the mom, because black with black produces black in German Shepherds. Black is a recessive gene in German Shepherds. This is another puppy, all black. Notice, if you ignore the commercials and look at the name of the puppy, Balko van Rischgraben. Also all black, looks like the daddy. Of course, it's a puppy, so you can't see it in adult form. But you get the picture. The puppies come out looking like their father. Another puppy at an older age looks like the dad. You see, all black, structurally looks like his dad. Now, so if the female is black and has the same phenotype as Yukon, in other words, she's all black, then the puppy looks like their father. Now, here's another puppy. Akita van Schwarzentroll was the mom. This is her son with Yukon, named Enno van Schwarzentroll. Schwarzen, I believe, is black in German. Notice how light his bone structure is and how thin his bone structure is. Very light skeletal structure. Now, what's interesting is that color-wise, he looks like his father, but structure-wise, not quite. That's because this dog has a lot of line breeding on other dogs. 3-3 on Yoshi on Voldahis. In other words, he's the product of a first cousin mating on Yoshi, with a Hardyman's coefficient of inbreeding being 6.40%. What does that mean? It means that 12.5% is the number for half siblings, which is very high. At 6.40%, it's half that number. So that's first cousins. So he is the product of first cousin mating on Yoshi and a repeat second cousin mating, C444, on Troll von Bossen Naschbrakraft at 5.27%, almost as influential. And then there's a 5-5 on Falco House Sindern at 1.76%, which is negligible. So essentially, because his mom brought forth the genetics of these three dogs, she was prepotent, meaning she has inbreeding in her, and Yukon has no inbreeding in him. And guess what the puppy looked like? Well, it looks like his mom, because the skeletal structure is not of Yukon, but the side that one is the side that has inbreeding. So his mom contributes this whole situation in this pedigree. So therefore, he came out structurally and anatomically more like his mom than his dad. So the dog with the degree of inbreeding, even though it's very mild inbreeding, won out in the characteristics of the dog compared to the dog which was not inbred at all, and Yukon was not inbred at all. So here's a live example of how prepotency worked. The female, which produced this son, Enzo von Schwarzentroll, won out in the characteristics of her son. Now, black is the same color, but the anatomic structure of this dog is a light-boned, light skeletal structured dog, not like Yukon. So notice how line breeding played a role in how the puppy came out. Now here's another mother, Alexa von Sachmannshof, and notice the puppies from this different mother. Here's a son by a different mother, Nathan von Brandschwarzer Wappen, all black, looks like Yukon, right? Now here's a sibling, which is Sable, Nelly von Braschweiger Wappen, and she's Sable. And notice she also was highly titled, BSP, FH1, Core Class 1, so this is a highly accomplished female. Notice how she, coloring-wise, looks like her mom. She's Sable. She carries the black gene as a recessive. But notice her facial structure, just like Dad. So, and for her to achieve such high titles, she must have had his personality to achieve such high levels of titles. Again, my point, here's another example where this is a female that looks like her father. Now, there's other examples here with a different mother, Anna von Bleichen-Schichen, where the puppy looks nothing like Yukon. This is a sable puppy, dark sable, but in terms of looks and anatomical structure, looks nothing like her father. So, and we can go through 6 pages of puppies, and I'm not going to illustrate my point. In other words, if you were to go through all 6 pages of the offspring of this dog, some of them look like their father, and some of them look very different. In other words, here's a dog which is black and tan, very traditional saddle and a black and tan dog, and he came out looking like his mom. Also a light skeletal structure, if you notice. Now, this dog looks nothing like his half-brothers and half-sisters through a different mom. He looks extremely different. Notice this dog is line bred 4-3 on Darrow von Finkelhoff, 5-5 on Firo von Zuterner, 5-5 on Gildo von Korlbach. Now, these are very light inbreedings, 1.61%, 1.76%, but this one at 5.27% is nearly the level of first cousins. So because the mom brought forth this dog, Darrow van Finkelhoff, into the pedigree, and the mom carried this line breeding in her, just like in the earlier example, you see, that dog looks like this dog. You see the light structure, the black and tan coloring, the same facial expression. So this dog is a grandfather on the mother's side. His genetics won out compared to Yukon, the direct dad, and this is his grandson. Notice he looks like his grandfather more than like his father. So in this case, the female had line breeding in her that she brought forth to the table. You see these numbers here. And guess what? He looks more like his grandfather than his father because of the line breeding on his mother's side. So it doesn't matter which dog is line bred, the male or the female. Whichever dog is line bred is the one that will win out in the genetic lottery between two parents being mated. Just like you and your brother don't look alike, even though you have the same two parents, well, it looks even further apart having half siblings and full siblings. So notice every time there's a different mother who had inbreeding or not, the pups came out like the mom. Here's a black and tan, which is nothing like Yukon. Now, I don't know behaviorally, but in terms of looks, totally different, right? So compare this dog, which is a son, to this dog, which is a son, and they look nothing alike at all. You would not say they had the same father whatsoever. So now, what's my point? My point is to create consistency in your litters, you must have similar phenotype and genotype between male and female. If we were to search on his son, however, Karel van Brandervoort, we will see that his son was more prepotent than his father. And he produced a lot of puppies as well, meaning he's a superior dog that had been bred so much. And I'm not going to search, I must be mistyping the... Now, what's a dog where he looks, his pups look like him? If you look at the Vulcan van Perot, not to be confused with Yukon van Perot, they're not related, but they do come from the Perot kennel in Germany, which we're not affiliated with, but we're just using their dogs as the basis of our dogs. Notice how this dog looks in terms of his look and his structure. This is Vulcan van Perot, a very good-looking sable dog. If you find this dog listed, you will see breeders which have offspring of this dog. So the bottom line is I brought up a video of this dog. So this is Vulcan van Perot, a very handsome dog, lived later in time than Yukon van Perot. And if you look at his son, Dex van Lupus Alpha, he looks just like his father. So the point being that the progeny of the dog and how it looks depends on whether the dog is prepotent or not. And that prepotency can be on the male side or the female side. And I've just showed you example after example with one of our top stud dogs, Yukon van Perot, who was a great grandfather at this point, how which female he was bred to had a great influence on the outcome. So when he was bred to a black female, born looks a lot like his father. When he was bred to a sable female with a different anatomical structure or a black and tan female, They may have inherited his characteristics, but they didn't inherit his looks. And if you want to have consistency in your litters, you want to have both. You want to have the dog's temperament and looks. Then you have a consistent litter. Anyhow, I hope this information helps you. Please subscribe to our channel. Please hit the notification button. If you want to see more content like this and have a better understanding of genetics and breeding dogs, we would love the opportunity to share these thoughts with you. And if you visit our website, which also will appear in the description below, there's a blog and other articles on the website which may be very helpful to you if you're a fancier of German Shepherd dogs. All the best. Please subscribe.